What is up? We are
Rob, are
live.
we live?
We're live.
How exciting. Another stream with my best friend way across the pond, as they say. I don't know why they call it a pond, but that's what it is. It is what it is, and we use the slang of the times. How are you, my friend?
I think Berlin's finally caught up with Brazil. We're aligned now climate-wise, so I'm not acclimatized though, so I'm sweating with these hot cans either side of my head.
Yeah, you were telling me it's quite hot over there right now.
Yeah, we're up to high 20s finally, which is nice.
High 20s?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Celsius.
Well, no. Even 20. I mean, here it's a steady 32 year round here. So.
Well, we're getting
high
close.
20s.
We're getting it, but I'm used to Berlin winters, so 27 feels baking right now. It's okay.
I need it.
Very light on the bottom half, so keeping it breezy.
Nice. So hello to everyone in the chat. Hello to everybody watching, wherever you are, whoever you are. Today we're going to be talking about Scalar. We just dropped the 2.4 update, so primarily we're going to be talking about that today. Before we jump into the demos from Rob, I just want to point out that we do have another live stream coming up on the 22nd. It's going to be a dev stream with the developers from Aberrant DSP, the guys who make Sketch Cassette 2, which is a really, really great plugin. You and I actually talked about it. I think it was on the Christmas stream.
Yeah, really awesome, cool looking one with the sort of lo-fi retro graphics. Yeah,
really a chill design on that one. And we're going to be talking to the developers of that on the 22nd. Same time, same place. So tune in for that if you're around. And we're also going to be giving away one copy of Scalar to one lucky person today, Rob. So
awesome. If
there's a question, I think we're going to do this thing where we ask a question and try to get some cool answers. But if there's a question you can think of just to ask, maybe after your first demo, we'll put it out to the community, and one lucky person will be winning a copy of Scalar 2.4. Obviously.
You mean like a test to see if people are paying attention?
Yeah, pretty much. We got to get them to smash the like button and give us a comment or two. Just to please the YouTube algorithm gods. But really, we just want to give away a copy to the community just so we can make sure everybody's growing right along with us. So before we jump into 2.4 specifically, Rob, I just want to mention some of the other changes that have happened since the 2.0 release. Because 2.0 was obviously a massive update, but even since then, in 2.1, we got hundreds of new expressions. We got the Neo-Riemannian modulation. We got the ability to control individual note velocities, and a new chord editor, so you can really get in and sculpt chords and get your hands on and do exactly what you're looking for on top of just the humanized feature. Then 2.2, we got the bass mode, we got the melody mode, we got quantize and swing. 2.3, we added riffs to the melody mode, a bunch of new chord sets. Undo and redo, which is a big community request. You can now undo, redo, actually save and export Scalar states, and you can actually import them. So if you wanted to share with me just the state of Scalar, you could export that and send it to me where I could import it. Those are all available in the logo by right-clicking. So we've been constantly updating Scalar, and a big driver force for what is added and changed and improved is the community, because we've got such a great community, and we want to keep giving them what they want, and that's you in the chat. Thank you for being so vocal and enthusiastic about helping us improve this incredible VST. And then obviously today we're going to be talking about 2.4, and there was this is like a massive, this is almost like a version 3 update. There's just so much good stuff involved here, and I'm really excited to see your demo, Rob. But just real quick, we're going to do 3 sections of demos. That's right, Rob? 3 sections?
Yeah, exactly. One on content, one on the sort of more MIDI features, and one on modulation, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're going to do the first one where I think you're going to kind of make a track from scratch and showcase some of the new content that came with Scalar 2.4. Content-wise, we got 2 new sounds, 2 new plucks specifically. We got EDM and Metal chord sets. And we also got a big feature that was heavily requested and a really popular feature since it's been released, and that is the common chord sets, which use just common progressions. Everything is set in C just so you can hear the differences really quickly, but there are a number of ways to move that from C to whatever scale you want. But really, just a ton of really good stuff. And I don't know if you've ever seen the video by Access of Awesome, where they do all of the different songs that follow the same chord progression.
Oh yeah,
It's like a medley of it.
And
I just watched it. Yeah, I just watched it again today, and it's just fantastic. And it just goes to show you that even with the same 4 chords, right? I think it was 1, 6, minor 5, 4.
Yeah,
was the one they did in the big video they had. You can just get you can get so much diverse material out of it. And I mean, these are all top 10 songs. So having that common chord sets inside of there and having so many at your disposal, don't think that it's going to like make you sound like somebody else. I mean, there's just so many ways to get diversity out of that. They're just chords that you'll recognize and will help you make a better track, essentially. There's also a bunch of new expressions in Scalar 2.4. We put a bunch of common performances and common basses and even sequences, which are like scaled down melodies that are meant to be able to work with everything. So using those common bass and performances and the sequencers are they're meant to help you get something that fits in your track right away very easily, as opposed to the melodic ones that we added earlier that are really detailed, which are absolutely incredible. These ones are meant to be more scaled back, more basic, to help you get something that sounds great right off the bat, and then you can go in and change and add and take away as you see fit. But just tons of new content in there, Rob, and I'm excited to see what you have in store for us by ways of demoing this incredible new content in Scalar 2.4.
Nice. Well, so I hope to do it justice.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. You do every single time you demo for us. So if you want to go ahead and take it away and just jump into the demo,
okay.
And then we'll come back in and talk about new features afterwards.
Okay, man. We'll see you in a bit.
Perfect.
All right. So I've just got a kind of basic live project here, and it's important to say when I work with Scalar, I tend to do it in a slightly different way from the way I've seen David Carbone using it, who's the creator of the plugin. He tends to use multiple instances of Scalar, which is a great way of working. But I tend to do it with one instance, and then just keep going, creating new sounds and exporting stuff out, which is just another way you can go. And when you do it that way, one thing you need to make use of a little bit more is the sessions facility, which is in here, which allows you to export and import different sessions, which are different states of the plugin. So we'll be looking at that a little bit. First up, though, I'm just going to create a chords hook for our track using one of the new song modes. Now, Josh, I think you might not be muted. I can certainly hear like bottle tops popping and stuff. So, are you muted?
Sorry, I'm popping bottles about this new big
what are you playing at, mate?
Update. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself.
Woo.
Just remind me when I come back and I'm talking and no one can hear me. Just remind me that I'm muted.
I will. Yeah, cool. So I'm going to go into some of the song modes. So first of all, you can see the common progressions there that Josh was talking about, and these are really awesome. So obviously you had all the genre-specific ones, which we've had for a while now. But this common ones they're just basically, like we were saying, the ones that have been used for a ton of different songs. So they're just really, really classic sequences. The one Josh was talking about is in fact in here. It's the 1/6, so it's one of these ones down here somewhere. Whatever the 1/6 one is, I can't see it now. Oh, there you go. I think it's the ballad. Yeah. So just to listen to that, then, if I just load it in. There you go. Probably the most overused chord sequence of all time. But it's amazing how much use you can still get out of these sequences. And with each one of these, you also get these different modes here, where you've got the triad version, you've got like a simple version, different thickened versions. I'm just going to bind my keyboard to it so I can play it from here. And then a colored one, which just adds in a few kind of spicy notes from the scale. You know, you would never know that was from, you know, most pop songs throughout time with those added notes in there. It suddenly, you know, sounds completely new and very moving. So one of the ones I'm going to focus on then is one of the new EDM ones. So we got all these EDM ones here. And it's EDM 13 I'm going to use for this one. So there's a ton, and I think, was it 20 in there? 17, so there's a load in there. Really nice. And often the way I go immediately when I start creating the kind of the sound is to get my MIDI clip that plays the chords the right way. There's other ways you can go. You can just play it in live and capture MIDI and then deal with the MIDI after. But I like to record it into a MIDI clip, and then you can just keep using that same MIDI clip to generate all of the other sounds in the track. So I'm just going to record that in by hitting record here. Helpful if I had a metronome on, I would have thought. So that's playing the chords in the rhythm that I'm kind of after here, which is just, you know, changing up the duration with which each one is sounding. I seem to have missed a note there, so let's play that one in. Now I can tidy them all up by selecting them, hitting quantize. I can also make them legato. Nice. And then once you've got them in there, you can then kind of play around with the different performance modes to make more exciting, more dynamic rhythms. So we're going to turn that on and look at some of the different ones in here. There are so many in here now. It's ridiculous. You've got a ton more performance modes. You've got these common ones. Again, this is like the common sequences that we saw before, and it's like common ways of playing them, basically. Let's just change to something a little bit pluckier, like one of these new sounds. Pluckity, I think this is one of the new ones. So yeah, loads of different really, really cool patterns there. And you can, of course, change the timing up if you want to make it faster or slower. So you've got control over the speed as well. I was actually thinking about going for a rhythm, though. Rhythms are essentially like the kind of chord mode that you'd have in an ARP, where it just plays the whole chord in a particular pattern. Rather ominous sounding castrato mode. You've got 4 different categories in terms of speed here, andante being the slowest and volante being the quickest, so I can set it to one of these fast ones. Sounding good. I really, really like the humanize mode. So if you turn that on, you can choose to have the velocity and timing, or both, adjusted kind of randomly throughout the pattern to make it more human sounding. And yeah, and once you've got your pattern there, you know, there's different ways you can get sound into your project. You can use it to play another instrument. You can just record in the audio. You can do all sorts of stuff. But the way we're going to do it is by capturing the MIDI, which is, again, one of my all-time favorite features that came in, I think, with version 2. So we're going to hit Midi Capture, hit start, and it will just record this particular performance. So now we've got that MIDI in there, we can just drag it onto any other track. And I've got a track here, analog, is just playing a default instance of analog right now. Let's just solo that track. And make it just 4 bars long. And I've just created a really quick preset here, which all I'm doing is adding a bit of filter enveloping, classic fast envelope. And then I'm adding just 2 stock effects from live, the amp sim to make it grittier, and then the new hybrid reverb just to give it a little bit of space. Awesome. Now the way I was using it before, often when I wanted to get a bass line in there, was to take the MIDI I was capturing, or to just drag out the MIDI as it was before capturing it with my chord sequence in there. I should drag that down, by the way. Let's just select all these, drag it down as the pattern section. So once you've got it in there, if you're new to Scalar, so I can clear that now, you can then just drag it out to drag out these chords as they are without having to capture MIDI, and it will just drag them all out with the same timing on each one. So the way I generally create a bass line before was just to sort of drag out the MIDI and then maybe delete the notes, on the top if they were all playing the root note on the bottom, and that would be your bass line. But what we have now is these awesome bass modes, so we can get Scalar to do it for us. So first of all, I'll just show you, by the way, if you want to keep any of these, like I was saying, you just have to click Settings, click on Session here, and then Export. And then you can choose a location on your computer, Scalar Stream, Sounds. Actually, let's just go with Scalar Stream, new folder. So yeah, Sounds 2. And then just name each one according to what sound you're making here. Like I said, I guess this is something that's more relevant if you don't have the most powerful computer, and you don't have the ability to have multiple instances of Scalar. I've never had a ton of instances, so I don't know how CPU intensive it is. Maybe Josh can let us know. But yeah, now you've saved that, you can always just re-import it back in at a later point if you need to. And in here you can also clear. So that's another option if you just want to completely reset, and we might do that in a bit. First of all, though, we're going to go to our bass line. So I'm going to select a bass sound down the bottom here. I swear there are more basses now. When I saw the new sounds, I was quite surprised that it didn't mention basses. I swear some of these basses are new, but I must have just missed some of them. So here's a bass now, and we can go straight to perform mode, and we can see we get a new category, which is bass. And in there now you've got different genres, which is awesome. So we could go for house or something if we wanted to make it EDM-y, or we could just go for one of the 2 kind of straight up modes. These basics are quite a little bit bouncier. They go up and down through different notes a bit more, whereas the straight is really just playing that root note in different patterns, which is really cool. Let me just play through a few of them. Let's help if I soloed Scalar again. Now I might want to bring it down an octave actually, which I can do by selecting them all here and hitting edit and then coming down an octave. So they're all down an octave now. And you also don't need to necessarily click on the edit and the different switches like the modulation that you used to, because in this version now you've got these handy switches for going straight to those modes from the top here. Oh, I'm playing the wrong section, aren't I? Didn't get much sleep last night, sorry. So there you go, the kind of basic mode, and you can step through a few of those. do actually have a beat in Loop Cloud. Let's just check out where that is. I think I might have minimized it. Sorry, 1 second. Let's get that open here. And I've got this house beat here. Of course, it's being soloed, so let's unsolo that. Now we can play this along with some different beats. So if you're thinking that's a little bit too out there, maybe adding extra rhythms, because we do have those quite plucky chords there, you might want something a little bit, you know, more basic than basic. What's more basic than basic? It's straight, and these ones here are, you know, really just playing that root note. Nice. And then, you know, once you've found the pattern you're liking, of course, you can just do exactly the same thing. So you hit Midi Capture here, play it in. And then just drag it onto another track once again. And I've got it again on just a track with a default instance of analog, only this time it's playing a square wave, a bit of a sawtooth over the top as well. So we just add a bit more filtering again. Bit of saturation and chorus and a bit of EQ just to kind of sit it right. Just going to pull everything down a touch. Looks like we are peaking a bit on here. And just stick a limiter on there as well, which I failed to do earlier. Now, I could go on. I was going to add a few more parts. I'm just mindful of time, Josh. If you feel like I've covered enough.
We're good, Rob.
No, yeah,
Rob.
we're good. We're good.
No.
Okay.
Do your thing.
Okay. Sweet.
Oh yeah.
All right. Yeah, helpful if I made it the right duration there. There we go. Also, I think I had the humanization still turned on there, so it's made it a really nice, you know, slightly varying sound again, which is nice. So next part I was going to do then was going to be some strings. Yeah, let's keep it with the strings. So let's come back to Scalar. Now again, if you want to, you can just save your session, export, Scalar stream, sounds 2 and bass. I'm seeing it drag a little bit on the screen. I hope we aren't getting any artifacts for you guys. Everything's kind of looking green at the moment. I think everything's okay. Yeah, so once you save that, we can of course clear it or just keep working with it as is. I'm going to clear the bass from there now and go straight to the strings. I really like the strings in here. Now, we heard the pluckety sound earlier on. That's a really awesome new sound, but we've also got the old ones, or the ones from before, the kind of original ones, orchestra, and staccato strings is one I really like. So let's just solo Scalar again. And let's turn off perform, so we just go back to playing our chords. And I mean, that sounds nice in itself, and it's really nice to layer up different sounds. I really enjoy recording the different scalar sounds onto audio tracks to create layers. Just to show you how to do that quickly, let's just go for a felt piano, for example. It's quite nice to layer underneath something like the main chords. So really quickly you can just create a layer by adding an audio track here, making sure you're looking at scalar, and then just recording in. And there you've got your layer, and you can just move on with scalar, do something different with it, but you've instantly got this really kind of lush piano layer going on underneath now. So going back to scalar then, and going back to these strings, the perform mode I was going to use was phrases. No, sorry, it's one of the new ones, one of the performances, and it's, bear with me while I temporarily, it's one of the motifs. Sequences, that's it. So yeah, so melody and sequences. Because there's so many things added to this section, I'm unsure of what's actually new, what isn't. This melody section now has, I think this is new. Josh, is the melody section new, or is it just the expanded performances?
Melody was introduced in, I believe, 2.1 or 2.2, but melody now has the common one. It should have, I believe. I think that's performances. The one, yeah, I've already shown that one. That's new and that's awesome. But melody, I think it's just that I haven't really explored melody too much personally because it was updated. It was in a fairly recent update. Yeah, there weren't any changes to melody. There was common performances, common bass, and sequences were the added in 2.4.
Cool. Well, then I won't dwell for very long on this, but just for anyone again who's new, or maybe someone who hasn't explored this section all that much, this is a really awesome way of creating phrasing and melodies over the top. So I thought I'd just show that. Just to explain sort of the difference between some of these. If you listen to a motif, so it's playing a kind of repeating, like rhythmic motif, or phrase over the top, just bouncing through the different chords because we've got it set to chord. Whereas a riff here, for example, maybe a little hectic. Now the difference between, I'm liking this D with this particular groove. But you can hear some of these, they, when they change through the chords, they don't work in the same way. And I'll show you a sort of work around that when we look at the MIDI section next. But what you might like to try in those instances is scale. And with scale, it actually just repeats the phrase sort of over and over again, which actually I find works really well when you're going for a motif and you've got a changing harmony underneath. So we've got these chords changing, and what we're looking to do is create a phrase that can just be repeated over the top and work with all the chords. So yeah, so just a quick explanation there of the different options you've got in melody, and that was just two of them, just riffs and motifs, and the difference between the chord and scale, with chord playing the different notes in the scale, and scale, repeating the phrase there just on the same notes in the scale. So yeah, I think Yeah, it's hard pass. So let's jump back now and get into some more of the new features, as that is the main focus of the stream. So I will bring Joshua back. What's up, JC?
Another great track, well underway, Rob.
I like it, man.
I particularly like the piano bit you've added in the background there. There's like I don't know if that's a counter melody. My vocabulary is quite lacking on these things, but I like what you did.
Bit of layering, mate.
But yeah, I mean, lots of great new features content-wise. The two plucks both sound great. I would say one of my favorite new features are those common chord progressions. They're just so helpful. Obviously, the chord sets by artists and the genre chord sets are really great, but sometimes you just want to jump into something that's tried and true, you know what I mean, and then go from there. And I think having those common sets there are great. And also the, like you said, the straight bass lines are just going to fit with, no matter what you're doing, you're going to find a straight bass line that's going to fit your project. And I think that's what those are there for. You can just use those, again, as starting points, as building blocks. You want to keep going and getting everything to jive together and being able to just throw on a straight bass line real quick. And then obviously you might want to go back and tweak it out and put some flair in it, or maybe just leave it straight. I mean, there are so many tracks out there that are just straight bass lines anyway that sound fantastic. But I mean, having them there, you know, to load it quickly, get the bass going and working well with your track, and then moving forward with your composition is just, again, I'm all about workflow. And in terms of that, it just boosts it to the next level, and I'm really pumped that it's there. Really great.
I'm always a big fan of the use of the adjectives in there as well. The fact that they always describe it as joyful, or you know what I mean, or they get very creative, and it's a good way of coming in, because as an alternative to the genre, you just might want to pick a mood, and it gets quite detailed with describing those moods, which is cool.
I agree 100%, and it's so accurate too. Like if you go to joyful and then you play that chord progression, you can feel it.
Uplifted, yeah.
Or if you go to sad or a cinematic, you can feel it when you play through, even if it's just like, you know, on triads or sevenths, and you just play the straight chord progression, you can actually feel it, which I think is, you know, I think that's why we all produce music, is to evoke feelings, and being able to start at a position, if you're like, I'm going to go scary today, you know, or thrilling, you know, being able to have a common chord set that can get you there quickly. And again, you go in and tweak it to your scale and, you know, put in and take away what you want. It's phenomenal. I'm really excited to see how far Scalar has come since, I mean, I've been since V1 even before. So to see where it is now and see what it can do in terms of helping people make music is phenomenal. I mean, I was actually talking with David Carbone last night about many different things, including what's coming. And trust me, keep subscribed, because the future is bright in Scalar, in the realm of Scalar. But he said the whole vision of Scalar was to help people make better music, and I think he's done, or him and Eduardo have done a great job and have delivered on that goal. So let's move on to the next set. But before we do that, I think it's time to put out the giveaway. Did you think of a clever question to ask, Rob? Or were you too busy performing and doing your demo? And I should have been thinking of it.
We could ask it. I did think of one thing before. It was maybe to ask what instrument has been a big focus of this release in terms of creating new patterns. What kind of instrument?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So if you want, no. I mean, what do you mean exactly?
So the new performance modes. What instrument type has been a particular focus of the performance modes, having its own category, in fact, in this release? You're struggling to answer.
Okay. I don't even know the answer to that one. So maybe for people in the chat, just throw out instrument names in the chat, and we're going to pick one winner for a copy of Scalar 2. So if you have it, if you don't have it yet, or maybe you'll win and gift it to your best friend, you know, whatever you want to do, just throw out the some instrument names, and also hit the like button. We got like 400 people watching, Rob, and only 100 people have hit the like button, which means there are 300 people who are on the fence whether or not to like Scalar 2.4, which is just
slags.
I mean, it's just unacceptable, to be honest. But while people are doing that, while people are naming instruments that were a focus in the performance modules inside of Scalar 2.4, let's talk about the next section of features. We're going to be talking about, let me see what we got here. We've got just MIDI mapping, which is insane to me. It's so good. And we also have got some bind key preferences, which people have actually been asking about in the chat. I was watching while you're doing a demo, and someone said that they needed this feature, and it is now involved or available in 2.4. So we got MIDI mapping, which means you can kind of set up Scalar to do like articulation switching. And it's going to be much easier for you to show that than it is for me to explain it. But you can set up a performance and route that to a MIDI key on your keyboard, and then you can change the performance mode. You can even go to bass, and then, you know, common bass line, and then you can route that or map that to a different key on your keyboard, and then you can actually switch those on the fly while you're demoing or you're playing. So if you're a performer using Scalar, or this is just how you like to record your music for your productions, it's huge, and it's really, really cool. And then there's the bind keys feature, which by default right now, if you press the octave that you're working in with the scale, you just use the white keys. You now have two other options. One is to map them to all keys, and this is specifically for people who use Scalar with a drum pad, with multiple drum pads, so you don't have to like remember, it's, you know, it's not this drum pad, I've got to go over two to get the next one. Now it just maps the whole thing in sequence to all of the drum pads. And then there's also true scale, which means you're going to have to play the scale to get the chords to play. So if you hit the wrong key, you're going to get no sound. And this is very helpful if you're using Scalar to learn particular scales, which again, we were also talking about this in chat. I've learned so much about music theory by using Scalar. A lot of people would say, you know, people don't, you don't need theory, but no. I've actually learned more than I had before just by using Scalar to help me. So, I mean, this is just one other way to use Scalar to learn music theory and be able to actually perform and play keyboard. So we're really pumped that that's there. And perhaps you can jump right in, Rob, and go ahead and show us what I was just rambling on about conceptually.
Sure, man. We'll catch you in a bit then.
All right.
Yeah, I also agree with Josh that it's a great tool for learning theory as well. That's why I included it on the theory courses that I made. So let's get back into Scalar here. So I may just, no, I think I've already saved the strings elsewhere. So I'm just going to come in and clear this now. Again, it's just session and clear. And we're going to start off with a different song starting point, which is going to be the other new category, which is metal. And if any of you have seen the David's video, he's using Scalar to trigger an awesome guitar instrument, like a rock guitar. I think it's a contact instrument, and it sounds completely amazing. But I'm just going to use it here to play the acoustic guitar within Scalar. Let's put it back in record, hit solo. So tons of different kind of classic metal sequences that, yeah, if you're creating a soft ballad, you might get away with an acoustic guitar sound, but really you want to play a seriously distorted guitar with these because it sounds amazing. So not only are there some great new metal presets here, but if we go up to the top, click on Perform once again, I can show you some of the new MIDI mapping or kind of control mapping options that you've got here, which are incredible. Just to go into a sort of simple example first, if you go with something like strumming, and I'm just going to set it to down. You can hear now it's just strumming in the right direction. And one of the things you can set here is the speed. So I can set it to really slow. So you can change the speed up there. And with all of these performance modes, no matter what they are, you can now map them to, for example, keyboard keys or MIDI controller keys or buttons. So if I right click here, it gets create command mapping. You can click on it there, and you can just press the key you want. So I could just press the I key. And there we've got our medium speed. And then I could change it to slow, right click again, create command mapping, and go with O. And then save that one. Now you can see when I hit the I and O keys on my keyboard, it's switching between slow and medium there. So I could play the sequence. If I was playing a sequence that was sort of and I wanted to play those second chords that are held for a bit longer slower, then I can just use the buttons to alternate really rapidly between, you know, the slow and fast or slow and medium styles. So pretty cool. We could now go with something a bit more adventurous, like maybe one of the phrases. One thing you notice when you load these phrases is that with some chords, you know, it sounds great, and then you hit another chord and it's maybe doesn't work quite so well. So this is another instance where being able to switch from one to the other is a really awesome thing to do. So sounding really nice with that first chord, which is also the third chord here. But we need to find something else for these second and fourth chords. So let's try the next one along. Quite liking that one. It's a little dissonant, but it's sounding good to me. So let's just alternate between those two for ease sake. And again, once you've just set up whatever mode here, you can just click create command, and we'll just use actually, you know what, this time we'll switch round so I can show you another mode as well. Otherwise it's just showing you essentially the same thing we just looked at, and it's being able to change the bind, as Josh was talking about. You can now open up the settings, and you're so much kind of more flexible here. You can only white keys is the default when you bind it, so you're just playing the white keys on your keyboard. You don't have to mess around with the black keys, which can be a bit of a pain. You've also got the all, which allows you to play the chords with a drum controller, which I might try and show you in a moment. And then, yeah, true scale is the one there, which allows you to only lock to the actual notes in the scale. So it's kind of for the theory heads, that one. But yeah, the other brilliant thing is here you can shift it around. So let me just bring in my phone cam. Hopefully it's going to be, you can see the keyboard here. Yeah, so at the moment I am triggering the different chords there with A to G, but I might decide actually I kind of want to perform that with my right hand, and I want to use some keys down here to change up the styles. So the way I would do that is by using the semitone shift here. Go to semitone, and you can just shift it up to wherever you like. So we can have it maybe going from G, maybe H. Now we've moved up nicely to the other area of the keyboard. And then we just have to map our performance modes to whatever keys we want. So we could map it to Z, and then map this one to X. So now we can play the chords using these keys, and we can switch between two modes using these keys. So I moved on there. Let's try that again. playing that very badly. If you weren't as tired as I was, then you'd be able to very easily switch between those two while you're playing those chords. There you go. Yeah, so really, really awesome options there with the mapping. And if I just turn that off for a minute, it applies to tons of areas here. So you can apply it to patterns. Right click there, you can map the pattern triggers. So you could just bind to C, and you could use your QWERTY keyboard keys to change which pattern you're playing. And you can map it to the bind itself, and just tons of areas around here. Anything on the header to turn voice grouping or humanizing on and off. So really, really awesome expansion of the MIDI controlling aspect. So let's bring Josh back. Hey.
Well done, man. Knocking it out of the park as usual, Rob.
Nice one.
So effortless.
I don't know how. I'm so tired today. My dog kept me up all night. That's another story there.
You got a puppy, yeah? I think you said last time.
Yeah, he had an upset stomach last night, so he was whining and scratching at the door at 3 a.m. Yes.
Yes.
Know what you want.
Lots of comments. I do want to lots of comments and questions in the chat. I've been trying to answer them as best I can while you were doing your demo there. But I do want to point out that while Rob was using his keyboard, his QWERTY keyboard, this is absolutely meant for a MIDI controller keyboard. I don't have one because I had to sell it because I was supposed to be moving, but that's why I do it with my QWERTY keyboard. But the question was, can you do it with the MIDI keyboard? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Anything that can accept and give MIDI information can be used for that application inside of Scalar 2.4.
Of course,
so absolutely yes.
Of course, the massive advantage as well is having the two hands there when you have multiple octaves, so you can trigger your chords like I was doing there using your left hand, just a step from one to the next, and then you can use the right hand to play arpeggios or all of these different phrases. So you can basically perform and improvise and do all sorts with the right hand. So that's when it really comes into its own.
Yeah, and you usually have a few extra buttons to map to things like that to do those articulation changes. Well, I call them articulation changes. That's not exactly what it is, but that's the way I conceptualize it in my head. So just more great features inside of Scalar 2.4. Let's just move on to the final set of new features, and that is some slight tweaks to the modulation section. Lots of questions in the chat about moving from one scale to another, or one progression to another. That's where the modulation page comes in, and I've actually got a few modulation videos coming up, which so definitely be subscribed to this channel, because I'm going to be doing a few videos on modulation tips and techniques. But when I spoke to David last night, he said the modulation page is sort of his baby. It's what he was most excited about doing. And with these new changes to it, he feels that it really is in a really great place and where it needs to be absolutely next level, or bring Scalar to the next level. So while they might seem like small changes, if you are getting into the more advanced thing, like key changes in the middle of your track when you go from one key to another for your chorus, the modulation page is going to help you get there so much easier. And for someone like me who has no idea what any of that means or how to even begin to think about it, jumping into the modulation page inside of Scalar 2.4 gives me the roadmap to actually apply that to my music. So that's a very common thing to do. And until Scalar, it was one key for the entire track. There was no key change. And it still sounds good, but having that key change into the chorus can really affect the overall output and the overall feeling and the overall response to your music. So having that modulation page there working at full steam ahead is absolutely phenomenal. So if you haven't updated yet and you are a Scalar 2 owner, it's a free update. You just log into pluginboutique.com, go to my account, and you'll find the update available inside of there. Definitely update to the newest version, because all of these features Rob has shown, or most of the features Rob has shown today, aren't available in earlier versions, and the ones he's about to talk about in the modulation page are going to really begin to push you to the next level in your music production. And even if you are someone who is, already pretty musically inclined, or you have the theoretical background, this is just going to help you not have to look at charts, because there are, it's a very complex subject, and sometimes you'll actually have to get in and figure things out. But this is just going to give you all right there on your screen. It's going to give you the roadmap you need to change a key or to make some unique scales, and it's just like using mediants and so on. And I mean, again, it's pretty hard to just talk about, so I'm going to let Rob jump in and show you. But these features, while it's just a couple of them, might really change your life in terms of what you're doing with your music production. So one other note before we jump in, modulation might seem a little bit daunting at first if you have no idea what's going on. But once you get in and kind of wrap your head around what each one of these modulation sections can do for you, you're always going to be jumping in there when you're writing your music. Like you're always going to want to use the modulation features to make your music more intricate and more, I guess, tell a better story, if you will. But yeah, I'm going to let Rob go ahead and jump in and show you around. But trust me, just keep an eye out for the future videos too, because we're going to really start to hone in on these modulation features and try to help you make better music, which is the whole point of Scalar 2. So Rob, go ahead, take it away and show us what's new.
Cheers, man. See you in a sec.
All right.
So we're going to go back to Scalar then, and once again I'm just going to clear it in the session section of the preferences. And I mean, the modulation section is what I saw initially as something, and certainly in earlier versions, was a way of just creating new sections from the original idea. And whilst you can still do that with certainly these first modes, progression being the main one, and I show you how to do that on my Scalar course. You take an original idea, you then select the scale that you want from the wheel here, which shows you original and shows you the scales that are closest that you can modulate to, and then it tells you, first of all, it transposes it to, or modulates it to the right key, and it also shows you some chords that you might want to use to go there. So we might look at that in a sec, but what I thought would be better to look at right now is one of the features, Mediants, I think is the new one. Josh, can you write, is it Mediants and Neo-Riemannian, or is it just Mediants in this one?
No, well, Neo-Riemannian was added in 2.1, I believe.
Okay.
But what you want to do is jump into progression.
Well, I'll come back to that, because that's the same as it was in Mediants is the new one, I believe, right?
No, there is no new modulation section.
Oh, it's the maintain
the modulation.
It's this maintain suggestion voicing. Yeah. Okay. So okay, we'll come back to that in a sec then. But I really wanted to show this because maybe it's because I'm I'm really excited about it from the ability to use this section to create new chord sequences, which it isn't how I've been using it. I've been using it to like I said, come up with an idea and then take it somewhere else. So with the Mediants here, you can select your scale. At the moment it's just C major, and then you can choose the chord you want to start with, and then it takes it from there and then goes on to the sort of next stage. So you can then just try out some different things. Something a bit more radical like the A maybe. Then you choose that kind of pattern, maybe alternating between major and minor and picking some different notes there. And then once you found the one you're happy with, you just drag it down into the chord builder. And then you create your sort of first chords, which are a really exciting kind of progression. It's not the kind of thing I would, select myself. And you'd have to maybe step through some different genres and some of the different song modes to kind of find these chords. But finding them this way, where it just gives you the chords it suggests you move on to through the mediants, is just amazing, and it enables you to really come up with these incredible sequences. I may just drop them all down an octave, and once you've selected a particular sequence, you can also then select them and detect them, and then it allows you to then kind of move on from where you are. So D major, just kind of picking chords at random here. You can always go back and kind of change them later if you want to make them a bit spicier, or major or minor if you want to shift the mood in a different direction. So where from the G, go to B major maybe. And then we could end with the dominant of C, which is the fifth, which is G, to bring it back around to the C. And then, you've created a really interesting sequence there. Yeah, and these the progressions I tend to make in this mode are often really like cool and spacey and really interesting and chromatic, but they sound perfect. They really gel well. And of course, once you got it in, you can then apply any of the modes that we've been using here. But yeah, this isn't new then in this version, so we're gonna move on. Let's say we've got our kind of pattern here. And let's just move on to edit here and just bring them down an octave, a little bit shrill. Yeah, really nice string sound in this. Just sounds in Scala are superb. And once you've got your idea then, in modulation mode, you can then go to progression, choose the scale you want to move to next. So it's showing us that we're actually in D. So you can then move to B minor. That's the related minor. So maybe you want to move a bit further afield. Maybe let's try something random here. F sharp minor. And it then takes your chords and it transposes them to that key. And what it does now in the 2.4 version is it allows you to maintain suggestion voicing or not. So if you've changed the chords and you've correct me if I'm wrong, Josh. I'm still exploring this section myself, and in fact, I'm going to make a course on this whole section. Is my current thinking. Using modulation with Scala would make a great course of its own, because there's just so much you can do in this section. But I believe maintain suggestion voicing keeps the voicing the same as the one you've suggested, or so if you've inverted chords.
No. So if you've inverted a chord, for example, in your initial chord progression, it will keep the suggested chords inverted for that particular one.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think the thinking is it allows you different options for whether you want to keep the chords within the same area or have them shift up and down.
The idea there is if you've inverted or changed the voicing of a chord, and then you hear the suggested one and it's not the same voicing, then it could be a big jump.
Right.
And essentially you've decided how far away it should sound from the previous and following chord. So we want to suggest that same, the same distance of a jump between, do you understand what I'm saying? To keep it closer to what you had, to keep it closer to what's being suggested, if that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah, cool. So that's sort of the big update here. And yeah, once you got your new sequence, of course, you need to find a way to get to it, and this is again something that you could do already in the previous version, but yeah, and this is the pathway it suggests in the middle here. So you just find a way to sort of step in here. So for example, we might want to create a new pattern down the bottom that starts off with these 4 chords, and we can add them to, I can right click now, add chords to a new pattern, and then we can and we can step down through these chords, kind of run out of note.
Yeah, the main one is the pivot chord, which is going to be the chord that's in the gray and the suggested modulation pathway. So really, that's the most important one in this progression modulation section, is to make sure you end with that. It'd be C# minor before going into your next scale. And for people who were asking earlier, this is how you change scales in the middle of the middle of or whatever part of your track. This is how you would do it.
Yeah, exactly. So it pretty much always gives you the dominant of your new scale, which is F# minor here. So it gives you C# minor, the 5th there. So that gives you your sort of bridge section, and then you've got your new one, your new sequence, which you can then right click and add that to a 3rd pattern, which can then be your sequence in F. So you have excuse me, so you've got your D there, you've got your bridge there, and then you've got your F# there. And yeah, you can perform these in whatever way you like. You can map them to your drum pad controller, which is in this mode here, where you can then just play them one sequence after the other, or just in any of the other ways that we've seen so far. So like I said, quite difficult to show, to really do this section justice, because it's incredible and allows you to do amazing things, and I'm only dipping my toe in really with just what you can do with it, which is why I'm definitely going to be doing a course on this section, because the updates have been thick and fast since the original version 2, and it's now expanded beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest. And it allows you to create these sequences that are sounding like the soundtrack from Jurassic Park, which is awesome. I'm going to bring Josh back now.
Yeah, there's one other thing that you could point out real quick with the modulation was the Neo-Riemannian.
Shall I bring? Shall I sit you in the top corner?
Bring it back up just to show people.
Yeah.
Which was the Minimise Movement feature. So Neo-Riemannian, the whole theory there is how can you get to the next chord by moving as less as possible.
Yeah.
And this was kind of lacking in an earlier version, but now they've got Minimise Movement in this newest version, and it does it so well. And if you're someone who makes cinematic music beds for TV or film or video games, I mean, this particular modulation section is just perfect for that style. I don't know if you want to show that real quick, just show maybe with it on and with it off, and just let people hear what it's doing, but it's really, really cool.
Do I simply have to select it and have it on? Is it going to play my or do I the way I saw it, you have to drop a chord in, and then it gives you the chords that are closest to it in a sequence, isn't that?
Exactly. So you can do, if you turn on select on click, and then you click one of the chords you have in your selected scale at the top, it's going to give you a list of parallel, leading, tone, and some other ones. PLR are the 3 main ones. I'm getting a little bit of delay on the video, so I don't know if you've done that or not. But then you essentially make a pattern, and you can make a pattern, or it's called a transformation, I believe is the correct term. But yeah, you'd go so C major to C minor, and then you'd click on the C minor and it'd pull it down to the next one, and then you would go to the leading tone of that, and that'd bring it down to the next one, and you make your progression doing that.
Yeah, nice.
There are a number of different patterns you can use, but like I said, PLR, so it would be parallel, leading tone, and then relative. and you could use those in any sort of pattern. And if you play that progression, it will give you a very cinematic feel. It doesn't necessarily need to be for cinema or a film, but it really, if you play it, you can really hear how it's been used, and you will recognize it almost instantly as a cinematic sort of progression.
Really nice. Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And so this is based on the ideas that you keep the notes as similar as possible as you shift from one chord to the next. If you stay in this region, like.
Yeah, you want to keep your finger movement. If your virtual finger movement, you want to keep it as minimal as possible. And the thing that I really like about it is, before Scalar, I mean, I would never even imagine being able to make something like this, because even when I had Scalar 1, I was afraid of dark gray and light gray chords, because that's telling me it's outside of the scale I'm in. But it's clearly not, because if you play that chord progression, if you make one of the patterns like PL, PL, PL is a very common progression for Neo-Riemannian, it sounds fine. It sounds great even. And like, this is what I'm talking about with the modulation section. It's going to open the doors for you in terms of what's possible and what you can make in a unique fashion. It's just awesome. I'm so excited. I've got videos planned. I've got videos in the works. So like I said, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be doing a bunch of short videos and get you started using this modulation section, because it's so powerful. And we're kind of afraid that people aren't jumping in enough, so we want people to check it out more. So it's coming soon, but trust me, it's gonna blow your socks off.
I've just built a chord sequence based on what you were talking about, without hearing it. So I'm just curious now, if I turn this on and play it, how it's going to sound. Hopefully great.
Well, I mean, I'm getting a 15-second delay on the video, and I don't believe you're doing it quite right in terms of patterns. But if you play that right there, it's probably going to sound good anyway.
Well, I've stuck to all I did was loaded in the first chord. When you click on one, you get it loading below, and then you can choose a similar chord. So I've just gone with P or L, choosing the one that's not being used before, and then it loads that one into the next one down. And then I think when I ran out of slots, I've just dragged that chord back up to the top here, so I can kind of start again.
That sounds like you've done it right then. So
okay.
If you want to go ahead and play that progression, let's see what it sounds like. You got some strings loaded? Perfect.
Yeah, let's check it out. It's amazing. It's so good.
How did it sound?
It sounds brilliant. Good, right? It sounds great. It's so smooth.
Cinematic.
Yeah, just changing beautifully from one chord to the next. Ends up nicely back on C major at the end. Lovely. Yeah, incredible.
I mean, it's like I was saying a second ago, I would have been completely afraid to take dark gray and light gray and blue and put them together in any order before. But now it's like, yeah, you can do it. Not only can you do it, but like most of the massive composers out there do it all the time, and it sounds fantastic. So it's like, they always say you got to learn the rules to break them. And it's like Scalar's helping you do both, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm really excited to be able to share some of the more in-depth stuff about the modulation page, because now that I kind of have my head wrapped around it, it's just going to completely open my music up to sounding more mature, I think is the right word.
Yeah.
You start with triads, and then you add another one, you've got your seventh, and then you got another one in your ninth, and you're getting really lush, and it's almost like it's maturing like a person does. And then once you're moving from one scale to another for your chorus, you're maturing again. And then once you're just taking Neo-Riemannian and making a sound bed for a film, it's like you've done it. You're an adult now, and Scalar has helped you achieve that. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Rob, thanks for walking us through what's new. That's pretty much everything that is new for everyone still watching. There is a full change log. For 2.4 is right on the project page, and then there's a support page where you can find out everything that's been new since version 2. Check it out, because every update is squashing bugs and adding new features that are going to blow your mind. So take advantage. And that's it. So if you have any other questions, you can post them in the chat now. But other than that, Rob, I'd just like to say thanks again for doing another bang-up job. You've knocked it out of the park once again with your demo skills.
No problem. Thanks, man.
And,
it's been fun.
How is Producer Tech looking these days? Got any new courses, new live streams coming up or anything?
Well, we're doing live streams almost every week. Had a great one from Simon Shackleton last week. It's funny, actually, because he was playing one of his tracks, which has amazing strings on it. And I was listening enviously and thinking, oh, I'd like to be able to make strings like that. I never really do it. And he's got great orchestration, and arranging skills. But I'm pretty sure with Scalar, I'm going to be able to put together some pretty amazing stuff as well. So I'm really looking forward to learning the new features. And I'm almost certainly going to do, new courses. I would say they'll probably appear next month, and fingers crossed. And I'll probably do a Scalar live stream as well for our members. So.
Oh, perfect. So people can find you where? Producertech.com, right?
It's the one. Yep.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to the updated Scalar version. I know you guys did one for Scalar 2, but I mean, there's, like you said, the updates have been coming, and they come so fast that it's like the developers are making huge changes to the plugins before we can even think about making a new course. But it's like, yes, but it's like, no, I'm not gonna make, So I mean, I'm looking forward to you covering the new updates. I'm looking forward to your take on the modulation pages. Like I said, we'll be posting some on the channel too. You guys should definitely check out David Carbone's modulation video and his Scalar 2.4 feature video, because they're fantastic as well. But I mean, there's just so many different places to get information on how to use Scalar better. Don't be shy. Obviously, send us messages. Let us know what you want to know about, and we will do our best to deliver. But I think that's it, Rob. The one last thing to do is just to let everybody know who won. There's one lucky winner. And the winner of Scalar 2.4 is Dan Marshall. It's DANMARSHALL. Dan Marshall, you are the winner of Scalar 2.4. Contact support@pluginboutique.com and just say, hey, I won the Scalar 2.4 on the Scalar 2.4 special stream on YouTube today, and we'll get you your copy. But other than that, Rob, again, I said it already a million times, but thank you very much. And I think that's about where we're going to wrap up.
Awesome, man. I'm going to go and have a cold shower. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it.
All right. And one other announcement, 22nd, a dev stream with the people who make Sketch Cassette 2, Aberrant DSP. So if you're interested in the technical side of how to make plugins, or you're just a fan of the plugins they've already released, that will be your opportunity to shout out some cues and make some, just chat with them in general, like I'm going to be doing. I'm really excited to learn about VST development, and particularly their Sketch Cassette 2, because it just sounds so good. So anyway, subscribe for Scalar videos, other videos, and future live streams with me and Rob. And I'll see you there.
Nice one, everyone. Take it easy.
Ciao, ciao.